Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. My name is Wan Alia Khadijah binti Wan Jamaluddin and I am the next presenter that will be explain about the advance in transportation. So what is advance in transportation? It can be defined as technologies that capable of improving the contribution to energy production while at the same time lessen air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions above the existing requirement. It means that when the population growth continue and it will create demand for more transportation infrastructure as well as cause climate change concerns and new transportation technologies are emerging to meet these challenges, making driving and traffic management better and safer for everyone. In this subtopic, we will learn about five major types of transportation, which are road transport, railway transport, water transport, air transport, and pipeline transport. Now we move to the first type, which is road transport. So, road transport can be defined as a type of transport by using roads and occurs in all areas of the nation, requiring the use of motor vehicles like cars, lorries, buses, bicycles, and trucks. For example, is smart car. Smart car can be defined as a mini compact two-seater car that has been popular in Europe or in packed city streets since the late 1990s. The smart car, which is standing for Swatch Measure This Art, started with the man who created Swatch watches, which is Nicholas Hayek. And this technology has their own benefit, like having low noise, because it is quieter than other cars. The second one is reduce pollution, as they use less fuel, and some are even hybrids, which means use electricity as fuel. And the last one is easy to park because can fit in the smaller space. The second type is railway transport. Railway transport is a method of moving passengers and goods by means of wheeled vehicles traveling by rail, known as railway or railroad. The rails are positioned perpendicular to the railroad train, composed of one or more linked vehicles that running on the track. For example of this technology is self-driving passenger trains. So what does it mean by self-driving passenger trains? These driverless trains are self-contained rapid transit system. All functions of the vehicles are controlled by the driver for grade 0, managed by Operation Control Center and not by manual train operators. It also have ATP, which is Automatic Train Protection. Then, the benefits for this technology are can enhance punctuality and decrease ongoing operation expenses by increasing the frequency of train, so it offers a better recovery from delay. It also can lessen the intake of energy by controlling the speed, including real-time optimization to take delays. And the last one is have platform screen doors or gates with intrusion detection system based on infrared scanners to remove the risk of passenger on the track completely. For example, is suicide. The next one is water transport. What is water transport? It is the transport which can move on water such as canoe, raft, submarine, and sailboat over a body of water like the sea, ocean, lake, canal, or river. The need for buoyancy units the watercraft, allowing the hull a dominant feature of its design, maintenance, and appearance. So if you look in the slide, I already give you the picture of the hull. These transport have two types. The first one is inland, and the example transport for these are boats and steamers. And the second one is ocean, and the transport for this type are liners, trams, and tankers. For example of this transport is cruise ship. Do you know what is cruise ship? It is the transport that provides great value for money to visitors as they always offer not only transport, accommodations, and meals, but also free events and opportunities for entertainment. This technology works by using either gas turbine or diesel-electric engines for modern cruise ships as their power source for transportation and also for the ship system. The bigger the cruise ship, the higher the electrical power demand. For the advantages, by using the cruise, people can see several places and unpack only once, as the floating hotel moving from city to city or from island to island. Next, it is pleasant for family of all ages, features video games and swimming pools while offering time for families to be together at dinner. And the third one is because it is easy to plan, since cruise trips combine transport and accommodation together. Now we move to the air transport. It is the most latest mode of transportation. It can be used for both domestic and international flights, passenger and goods transfer by aircraft such as airplanes and helicopters. The two world wars gave a great impetus to the development of air transport in almost all the countries of the world. The example technology for air transport is airplane. An airplane, also known as aeroplane or plane, is a controlled flying aircraft with fixed wings and a weight greater than air. This technology also propelled by a screw propeller or a high-velocity jet and supported by the dynamic reaction of the air against its wing. This technology also have their own function, which is to generate the thrust to reduce the excess capacity or when the aircraft no longer efficiently serve the route structure. Airplane also can promote tourism by providing mass and quick transportation to tourists between the countries. And the last function is to provide employment opportunities to people like pilot, flight attendant, and airport manager. Some of the advantages are the fastest mode of transport that can cut hours or days of a trip and free from physical barriers like river, mountains, and valley. The next one is airplane is useful in natural calamities and agriculture. For example, it is useful for aerial spray on pests and insects which can cause harm to crops. The last transport is pipeline transport. It can be defined as a mode of transport involving the flow of solid, liquid, or gaseous materials over long distance across pipelines. This method of transport is primarily used for transport of crude and refined petroleum goods like oil and natural gas. In general, pipelines can be classified in three categories depending on purpose, which are gathering pipelines, transportation pipelines, and distribution pipelines. Gathering pipelines is a group of smaller interconnected pipelines forming complex networks to bring crude oil or natural gas from several nearby wells to a treatment plant or processing facility. For transportation pipelines, it is mainly long pipes with large diameters, moving product between the cities, countries, and even continents. The third one is distribution pipelines that compose of several interconnected pipelines with small diameters used to take the product to the final customer. The example technology for pipeline transport is GIS and planning pipeline routes. Do you know what is GIS? GIS, or known as Geography Information System, allows companies find the safest path for pipelines by enabling them to analyze multiple factors, including social and environmental impacts and geological hazards, in a simple computer program that links data to a real-world locations on a map. And this technology also have many advantages. For example, it is less damaging to the environment because they are sealed and mostly underground. Next, it is less susceptible to theft by generating maps on areas that are affected, and more economical as it helps to locate new businesses or grow existing ones. And next, I will explain about the advance in space technologies. Okay, so what is space technologies? Space technologies means technology designed to be used in astronautics by space scientists or aerospace industry for uses such as space flight or space exploration. It is because space is such a new place that takes new tools and technique to try and work in it. Many common everyday services such as weather forecasting, GPS systems, satellite television, and some long-distance communication systems rely on space infrastructure. With more than 2,000 commercial space companies, including those building communication satellite, orbital launch vehicles, and space greenhouse, the world's commercial space capabilities are quickly expanding beyond our satellite industry. Now, we look at the history of space technologies. At 4 October 1957, Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite called Sputnik 1 into the space. 1 year later, Explorer 1, which is the first US satellite, went into the orbit. The first person to orbit the Earth by using the space flight Vostok 1 was Russian Lt. Yuri Gagarin on 12 April 1961. Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders, who are the crew of Apollo 8, were the first human beings to reach the orbit of the Luna and see the side of the Moon 7 years later. The astronaut Neil Armstrong was the first human to step on the Moon on 20 July 1969. At the early of the 1970s, orbiting communications and navigation satellites were used on a regular basis. And the last one is during 1980s, the satellite communication were expanded to broadcast television shows, and users were able to obtain the satellite signals on their home dish antennas. The first technology for space is Hubble Space Telescope. What is Hubble Space Telescope? It is a space telescope that was released into a low Earth orbit in 1990 and is still in use. This was not the first space telescope, but it is one of the biggest and most powerful, widely known both as a crucial research instrument and as a public relations tool for astronomy. Hubble has seen stars being born, seen stars die, seen galaxies that are trillions of miles away, and also has seen comet pieces crash into gases above the Jupiter. Scientists have learned a lot about space from the Hubble pictures. How does this technology work? This technology has a specific wavelength of light that can be identified. The range to produce detailed pictures of stars, galaxies, and other astronomical objects extend from the ultraviolet through the visible, which our eyes see, and into the near-infrared. This technology flies around the orbit, high above the Earth and its atmosphere. So, Hubble can see space better than telescope on Earth can. It uses a digital camera and takes pictures like a cell phone. Hubble uses radio wave to send the pictures through the air back to Earth. Furthermore, this telescope has their own functions to us. This telescope can reveal the dark energy, a mystical force that works against the gravity and contributes to the ongoing expansion of the universe. It also can capture images of many ancient galaxies in all stages of evolution, and scientists can see back into the past days of a young and developing universe. Next, this telescope can investigate planets that are moving around the stars, which are similar to the Earth-Sun atmosphere, and can see the cosmos more clearly. Lastly, it can gather light from cosmic objects, so scientists can see better and understand better about the universe around us. Space blanket is the next technology for space. What is space blanket? NASA first created space blankets in 1964. It is highly reflective insulators because this is mostly used as emergency equipment to prevent a large shift in body temperature for long-distance runners after completing a race. They also have been developed into outdoor gear and sleeping bags. How does this technology work? The blankets work by their design, which is thin, flexible, and thermoreflective. The aluminum helps redirect infrared energy, so it can provide insulation by forming a barrier between the wearer and the wing. The blanket also can trap up to 90% of the radiated body heat, as it will slow the process of evaporation or heat loss by raising the humidity of the air near the skin. The reflective also usually is a silver or gold in color because it reflects off our body heat back to us. Next, we move to the function of the space blanket. There are a few ways to utilize a space blanket in a survival situation. The first one is can keep us warm and cool. For instance, if you are in a tent and the sun is bearing down on you, just put the blanket shiny side up on top of the tent because it tends to reflect the heat. Other than that, this blanket also can be as a signal for help due to the reflective surface makes it more easily visible from the sky. And the last one is it is useful in a first aid kit as emergency blanket if someone is going into shock because it can keep the body heat in and the cold out. Other than that, this blanket also has a few advantages like low weight, compact size, and not expensive. A typical space blanket weighs about 85 grams, costs around 5 ringgit, and can be folded out like the size of a deck of cards only. The last technology is basic technology. What is basic technology? It is a clothing worn in order to keep astronauts being alive in the brutal environment of outer space, vacuum, and temperature. A fully equipped suit is used in Earth orbit, on the surface of the moon, and en route back to Earth from the moon because it will protect the astronauts from the dangers of being outside in space. For example, the weather can be as cold as minus 250 degrees, and in the sunlight, it can be as hot as 250 degrees. There are three types of spacesuits. The first one is IVA, intravehicular activity, are meant to be worn inside a pressurized spacecraft and therefore lighter and more comfortable. The second one is extravehicular activity suits, are used outside the spacecraft for either planetary explorations or spacewalks. And the last one is IEVA, intra or extravehicular activity suits, for use inside and outside the spacecraft. And there are many functions of this technology. First one is it will enable to live under the extreme temperatures and conditions. Next, it will provide oxygen to breathe and water to drink while walking around the space. And the third one is shield astronauts from injury of space dust, radiation, and bright sunshine. And the last one is it will enable to walk on the surface with minimal gravitational conditions.